Today's topic is on bacterial genetics. What is genetics? Genetics is study of genes, their structure, function, and heritable variation. What is genomics? Genomics is study and analysis of nucleotide sequence of DNA. What is genome? Complete set of genetic information of a cell. Genetic material. So the nucleic acid, either DNA and RNA, comprise the genetic material. Nucleotides, structural units of nucleotides. So this nucleotides comprises of nitrogen bases, either purines or pyrimidines, pentose sugar, deoxyribose or ribose, and phosphate group in the form of phosphoric acid. So this genetic material is stored in the form of nucleic acid as DNA and RNA, and this DNA and RNA you have got structural units known as nucleotides. The structure of this nucleotide unit comprises of nucleic acids. This includes the three components. One is the nitrogen bases, either purine or pyrimidine, and the second one is the pentose sugar, whether it is in the deoxyribose or ribose form. The third one is the phosphate group, the form of phosphoric acid. So nucleoside is nothing but the presence of nitrogen bases plus sugar only, no phosphate group. So you will see the nitrogen bases. So purines and pyrimidines, adenine, guanine are two purines, and pyrimidines, uracil, thymine, and cytosine. These are the purines. All these are examples of nitrogen bases. So nitrogen bases, either purines or pyrimidine. The purines are adenine and guanine, and pyrimidines are uracil and thymine and cytosine. So what is the principle of behind this? The principle DNA is act as a storehouse for all genetic information. So all the genetic information is present in the DNA, and that's what is also called as central dogma. So all the organisms contains the DNA, except certain virus do not contain DNA, contains the RNA only. So the structure of this DNA is a twisted ladder, double helix form, comprises of sugar phosphate as a backbone and base pairs as a complementary base pairs. So these are the chemical components. One is sugar, phosphate as a backbone and base pairs. To each base pair act as a complementary. So you see this picture, the inventor of the DNA. The first picture, you see the James Watson and Francis Crick with their DNA model in the year 1953. The next second picture, Maurice Wilkins with X-rays. So crystallographic equipment was established in 1954. Now third picture, Rosalind Franklin. All these scientists are inventor for the DNA. You can see the picture of double-stranded DNA. You are seeing the two pictures, top picture and lower pictures. So lower picture is the original DNA, which is in the shape of double helix. So it comprises of two backbones and it comprises of base pairs. So the backbone is having the deoxyribose sugar, and each deoxyribose sugar is bonded by phosphate bond, and this each backbone is held together with the help of base pairs. What are these base pairs? Adenine, thymine, and cytine and guanine. So these base pairs are tied with the help of hydrogen bond. So this double helix nature of this DNA is maintained with the help of the hydrogen bonds between the base pairs. What is the base pairs? Example, adenine, thymine, cytosine and guanine. So adenine always binds to thymine with two hydrogen bonds, and cytosine always binds with the guanine with three hydrogen bonds. So this hydrogen bond will stabilize the double helix nature of this DNA. So the DNA composition comprises of the backbone, two backbone are held together with the base pairs. These base pairs are again adenine, thymine or cytosine and guanine, and these pairs are held together with the help of hydrogen bond, which makes the helix nature as in the form of helical structure. Central dogma of molecular biology. So that means the DNA acts as a storehouse for synthesis of different polypeptides. How it is brought about? So first you see, this is the DNA which contains the information for various amino acids or the polypeptide synthesis. What happens? This DNA acts as a template for the synthesis of messenger RNA. So the messenger RNA is transcribed. From this messenger RNA, again it gets translated into transfer RNA. This transfer RNA gives rise to the polypeptide. So this is the sequence that has been taken place. So first DNA acts as a template for the synthesis of messenger RNA, and this messenger RNA is taken place by the process is known as transcription. This messenger RNA is again translated into transfer RNA. This process is known as translation, and finally the translated RNA will give rise to polypeptide. These are the sequence that are held during the process of polypeptide preparation. This polypeptide preparation is stored in the DNA. So for this polypeptide synthesis, the gene expressed in two ways. One is the transcription. So what is meant by transcription? This is nothing but the synthesis of RNA from DNA template. Next process expression is translation, the process of decoding the information of the messenger RNA to synthesize the protein. So these are the things that happen for the preparation of the protein or polypeptide. So in the previous slide I have clearly elaborated these points. That is, first DNA transcribed to messenger RNA again translated to transfer RNA, from transfer RNA to finally production of the particular polypeptide or protein. So now come to the RNA. So RNA is similar to DNA, but it has got two differences. One difference is RNA contains the ribose sugar, whereas DNA contains the deoxyribose sugar. Another difference is RNA contains the uracil, whereas DNA do not contain this uracil base. So these are the two important differences between the RNA and DNA. And what are the various types of RNAs? You have got messenger RNA, you have got rRNA, you have got tRNA. That is R for ribosomal RNA, T for transfer RNA, M for messenger RNA. Now come to replication. So DNA replication. So you are seeing the different pictures from left side beginning to the right side. The first is the parent DNA. The second picture is the first step in the replication, that is unzipping of the nucleotide sequences taken place. The second step will see the complementary base pairs are added, and the third step you will see the development of two semi-conservative daughter DNA molecules. So which comprises again the sugar phosphate backbone formed containing the nucleotides in the two new strands. So you'll see the two new strands. So this is the way of replication of DNA. So next you have to know about the codons. So in this picture you are seeing the different colors. So each color represents one codon. What is meant by codon? The so genetic information is stored in the DNA in the form of code. What is a codon? Codon is a unit of code. What is code? Code is comprises of triplet of 3 bases. So codon, first transcription to messenger RNA. Finally, it gives rise to amino acid. So these codons are again two types. Degenerative codon, which more than one codon exists for the same amino acid, or nonsense codon, which is responsible for the stoppage of this amino acid synthesis, and this is known as stop codons. So see this picture carefully. This is the genetic code. So you will see the DNA. The DNA you have got nucleotide sequences, that is bases, nitrogen bases. Within the gene you have got various codes. What is meant by code? Code is nothing but the 3 bases. What are the 3 bases? Adenine, thymine, guanine. So 3 bases comprise one codon. So each codon is responsible for synthesis of particular amino acid. So you will see the codes. Here you will see the one code which is able to produce one amino acid, that is it is G, and next one is the CTA, another code which is responsible for the amino acid, another amino acid preparation, and GCG which is responsible for the synthesis of one amino acid. So each code for the particular amino acid. The code is nothing but a genetic information which is present in the DNA in the form of code. Code is nothing but a 3 bases. 3 bases comprise one code. So each code will produce one type of amino acid. So see this one, it looks different codes are there for synthesis of different amino acids. So each code is responsible for production of specific amino acid. So these codes are present in the chromosomes for synthesis of several amino acids by several codes. So gene or cistron. What is meant by gene? Gene is segment of DNA carrying codons for particular polypeptide. Now locus. What is locus? Locus carrying number of genes. Whereas what is gene? A large number of loci are known as genome. So bacterial chromosome is in the form of circular double-stranded DNA, and it comprises of 4,000 kilo base pairs. Its length is 1,000 micrometers. The human chromosome having the 3 million kilo base pairs. So in this, the DNA is compared with the book, and these letters in the book are compared with nucleotides, and the words are compared to that of codons. A sentence is nothing but gene. The paragraph is loci. So in this way, the entire genome is taken into book. In the books, the letters are the nucleotides, the words are the codons, the sentences are the genes, and the paragraph is the loci. Extra chromosomal genetic elements. This includes plasmids. Plasmids are circular DNA molecules present in the cytoplasm. So they play a role for development of new properties like drug resistance and also toxin production. So the bacteria will get resistance by means of these plasmids, as well as some bacteria will produce toxins by means of these plasmids. So plasmids are autonomous replication. So they can replicate by themselves, independent in the replication. And they play a role in the gene transfer, and they act as a vector in genetic engineering, and they clean up the environmental waste. So these are some of the points related to the extrachromosomal genetic element, that is plasmid. So in this picture you can able to see the bacterium. In the bacterium you got the bacterial chromosome and the extra chromosomal material plasmid, the cytoplasm of the bacteria. So it is in the circular manner. The plasmid is in the shape of circular, self-replicatable, and plays role in the gene transfer. The chromosomal gene is transferred with the help of the plasmid. The plasmid can also act as a vector. Episome. Episome can be defined as the plasmid DNA which is integrated with the chromosomal DNA. So episomes may be two types: conjugate plasmids or episomes contains the information for self-transfer. Only this type of plasmids can able to do self-transfer, whereas non-conjugate plasmids, so these do not possess the information for self-transfer. Though the genetic material is transferred by a factor known as transfer factor or by bacteriophage. Classification of plasmids, two types: physical method by restricted endonuclease printing and genetic method by incompatibility testing. Now come to the types of plasmids: self-transmissible or non-transmissible. Second, incompatible groups. Third, restricted endonuclease types. Closely related plasmids do not coexist in the same cell, while unrelated plasmids can. So genetic variations. So these genetic variations can be of two types: genotypic type and phenotypic What is genotype? Genotype is sum total of genes that make up the genetic apparatus of a cell. So these are transmitted to the progeny, and these genotypic variations occur by methods of mutations or by gene transfer or exchange. The next variation is the phenotypic variation. Pheno means display. The physical expression of various characters of bacteria will take place by means of genome and also by environment. So it is a reversible phenomenon. So example is synthesis of flagella. So this Salmonella organisms will lose their flagella when they are grown in penile agar, and the same Salmonella organisms they are allowed to grow in medium which is not having the phenol, again they will regain the flagella. So this is a transient reversible physiological expression of a bacteria. So this is known as phenotypic variation. Another example is synthesis of enzyme like beta galactosidase. So this phenotype variations occurs by induced enzymes or constitutive enzymes. Differences between genotype and phenotype. Genotype, the stable and heritable variation takes place, whereas in phenotype, a temporary, not heritable variation. So in genotype, alter in the genome takes place, whereas in phenotype, no alteration in the genome. So next difference is the genotype not influenced by the environment, whereas phenotype is influenced by the environment. The genotype is not reversible, whereas phenotype is reversible. Mutation. Mutation can be defined as random, undirected, heritable variation. So alteration in the nucleotide sequence at some point of DNA will takes place. How it takes place? The mechanism is error during DNA replication will result in the development of mutant. Now frequency of mutation. So once in 10 to the power of 4 to 10 to the power of 6 cell divisions, naturally the mutation will takes place. The most of the mutations are unrecognized. The mutation may be lethal mutation, the mutation may be conditional mutation. Example is the temperature mutant. Types of mutations. Spontaneous mutations, where occurs usually as a natural phenomenon, and induced mutation. Here the mutation occurs due to the presence of mutagenics, either physical agents or chemical agents. Third one is the point mutations, affect just one base pair in gene. So this is takes place by addition, deletion or substitution of base pair. So base pair substitution. What is base pair substitution? Substitution of one base pair with another base pair. So this is takes place by transition or by transversion. So missense mutation. What is missense mutation? Alteration of the triplet code to produce different amino acid. Next one is the nonsense mutation. Here generating a nonsense codon which causes the premature polypeptide chain terminations. So the base pair substitution takes place in the form of transition or transversions by one base pair with another base pair. In this, you will see the missense mutation for the production of the different amino acid, nonsense mutation, which result in the premature polypeptide chain termination. So in this picture you can able to see normal process of amino acids formations, and the mutant can give rise to different types of amino acids. So here in the upper left diagram, that is normal DNA, which gives rise to different amino acids with usual codes. In the left lower diagram, it is a mutant. So what type of mutant? It is a missense mutants. What is missense mutant? Here the instead of regularly coming amino acid, a different amino acid has been synthesized. This is due to the nucleotide change. Now come to the left upper diagram, that is C. Here you will see the nonsense mutation. In this nonsense mutation, you will see the codons which are responsible for the termination of the polypeptide synthesis. So there is no complete formation of the amino acids takes place. This is known as nonsense mutation. So now come to the right lower diagram, it is frame shift mutation. In this you will see the formation. In this there is a deletion of the base, which in turn gives rise to the different amino acids. That is, newer amino acids have come up in frame shift mutation. Base pair deletion or insertion. This is frame shift mutation. Insertion or deletion of bases, if not more than 3, shift in reading frame occurs with a new codon. So the new codon is formed, and this in turn gives rise to new amino acid. So the importance of this frame shift mutation is survival advantage. So once this new codon which gives new amino acids, it protects the organisms for their survival against the drug resistance. So it is also useful for the development of new vaccines, especially BCG vaccine. So in this picture you can understand what is meant by frame shift mutation. In the upper diagram you will see the DNA which having different codes for production of the different amino acids. So in the lower picture you will see there is a shift of the base taken place, and ultimately the codes are differ, and these different codes will produce abnormal amino acids. This is known as frame shift mutation. So once deletion or addition or insertion of the base can result in the production of the newer code, and this newer code will ultimately give rise to newer amino acids or abnormal amino acids. So this is a nonsense mutation. In this nonsense mutations, above picture shows the DNA bases with the different codes producing the different amino acids, and that is normal. But when there is incorrect sequence of the codes, what happens? There is a premature termination of the amino acid synthesis. So this type of mutation is known as nonsense mutation. So point mutation. What is meant by point mutation? These are abnormalities will take place in the chromosomes. So when there is change of the bases, one or more bases will alter. So this alteration may be in the form of second diagram deletion, that is C and D bases are lost, that is deletion, and the third diagram you will see translocation. So this translocation of the bases taken place, that is instead of CD the E, F, G came. In the third and the last diagram you will see insertion of the bases. So we'll see this after A, B, you will get the E, D, E, F, G. So these are the various points. At different points, different mutations will take place with the bases, one base or more than one base. So deletion, translocation, inversion like that. So it is a mutation of the chromosomes, the alteration in the bases at particular point of the chromosome will result in the mutations like this. So theory of spontaneous mutation. How can you know that mutation has been occurred or not? So there are different theories are there. This includes the Luria-Delbruck flocculation test one. Another theory of spontaneous mutation is the replica plating technique, the Lederberg. In this replica plating method, you can able to identify the mutations. How can they are identified? In the next slide I will show. So this is the replica plate method for identification of the mutants. So in the top two diagrams you will see the master plates, which is having the growth of the organisms with all colonies, where in the left side plate only mutant has been grown. So what is this velvety replica plating method? So this is replica will take the velvety. So the purpose is velvety is take the imprint of the colonies of a master plate, and these are transferred into other plates. So the impression of this velvet is pressed over the other plates. In the other plates, you have to allow these plates for incubation and finally see for the growth of the organisms. So the medium is complete, we'll see all the colonies are grown, whereas it is minimal medium, mutants do not grow. So this is the replica plate method, and this is not nowadays used. This for some importance to know the mutants. This is being used nowadays, it's not using. So I told that genetic variations can take place either in the form of mutation or in the gene transfer. So far I have discussed about the mutations. Now I am going to discuss about the gene transfer. How the gene will transfer, what are the various methods of gene transfer, I am going to tell. So gene transfer can be taken place in different mechanisms. These includes, the first one is the transformation, second one is this transduction, third one is the lysogenic conversion, fourth one is the conjugation. These are the various methods of or the mechanism of gene transfer. So I will tell each one in detail in the coming. So transformation, the transformations, transfer of genetic information through the agency of free DNA. So this was done by this Griffith in 1928. The experimental animal is the mice. The organisms used with the pneumococci and this Ever Lippmann Macron. The transfer of genetic material was identified by this scientist. So this is the experiment done by the Griffith, how this gene transformation can take place. So in this you will see treatment 1, treatment 2, treatment 3 and treatment 4. In the treatment 1, what he has done, so he has taken the rough strains, that is non-capsulated strains of the streptococci and injected into the mice. So what happens in the conclusion, all strains do not kill the mice, so mice is alive. So due to the rough strains, that means they do not contain the capsule. In the treatment 2, so he has taken the smooth strains. Smooth strains means the streptococci having the capsules. Well, if you injected into the mice, what happens? Mice dies. So this is a virulent organism. So the rough strain is a virulent organisms which result not the death of the mouse in the first treatment. In the second treatment, the smooth strains, the capsulated organisms, are which result in the death of the mouse. So these are the virulent. So the capsule is a virulent form, is a virulent for the death of the mice in the second treatment. The third treatment, what he has done, he has taken the capsulated organisms, but he heat killed the smooth strains. So once this heat killed strains are injected into the mice, in the third treatment, the mice did not die. So that means this, though they are smooth strains, due to heat killing, the capsular virulence is lost. So that is why in the third treatment, mice are alive. Now come to the fourth treatment. It is very important to know. So in the fourth treatment, what he has done is he has taken the non-capsulated rough strains and heat killed smooth strains. So heat killed smooth strains means that do not have any virulence. So both combined he has injected into the mice. So what happens? Finally the mice dies. Why it dies? Because the capsule is taken, the genetic material from the heat killed strains to the capsule is taken from the heat killed strains to the non-capsulated organisms, and finally the virulence of the organisms result and the death of the mice will taken place. So in this conclusion, the live strain cells have transferred to S strain. So this is the way of gene transformation. R cell absorbs genetic material of S cell. So after transformations, next mechanism of gene transfer is the transduction. What is transduction? It is nothing but the transfer of a portion of DNA from one bacterium to another bacterium by means of bacteriophage. This is known as transduction. A part of the DNA of one bacteria to another bacteria will take place with the help of the bacteriophage. This is known as transduction. So in this picture, you can able to understand how this bacteriophage will replicate. So bacteriophage are nothing but the lambda virus. It has got two pathways. One pathway is the prophase, another pathway is the lytic pathway. In the prophase pathway, there won't be any lysis of the bacterial cell, whereas lytic pathway there is a lysis of the bacterial cell. How it is brought about? So first the bacterial cell you will see in the top diagram. In the bacterial cell, the lambda virus or bacteriophage will attaches. After attachment, the genome of this bacteriophage enter inside the bacteria, and this is integrated with the chromosome. So in the left side you will see the non-lytic phase, whereas you will see the lytic phase in the right side. In the left side, the integrated chromosome of the bacteriophage with this bacterial chromosome will multiply along with the bacteria. This is known as prophase pathway or non-lytic pathway, where there is not be any lysis of the bacteria occur. Whereas in the right side, you will see the proposed bacteria will make a new the daughter viruses, and after complete filling of this daughter viruses in the bacterium, the bacteria will get lysed and the daughter virions or the lambda virus are released. So these are the ways how this bacteriophage will multiply in a bacterium. So one is the lytic phase, another is the non-lytic phase. In the non-lytic phase, the bacteriophage will go to the progeny along with the division of the chromosome. Whereas in lytic pathway, the lysis of the bacterial cell will take place and the daughter cells are released. So as the name implies, the non-lytic cycle, there won't be any lysis of the bacteria occurs, whereas lytic cycle you will see the lysis of the bacterial cell and giving rise in the daughter cells. So the I told that is what is meant by transduction. A portion of the gene of bacteria is transferred from one bacteria to another bacteria. That is known as transduction, which has taken place with the help of the bacteriophage. This is of two types, generalized and another is the restricted. In generalized transductions, bacteriophage can pick up any portion of the chromosomal DNA of bacteria at random, and it is typical of bacteriophage. The next one is the restricted one. So in restricted transduction, the specific bacteriophage transduces only a particular triad. Example is the gamma phase of Escherichia coli. So the transduces only between the gall and bio genes. So in this picture you can able to understand what is meant by specialized transduction. That means a particular portion of the chromosomal gene is transferred with the help of the bacteriophage. In this picture you will see the bacteriophage which is in the first diagram, and it is incorporated into the chromosome of the bacteria. So after integration of the chromosomal bacteria, so this phase is taking the gene, gall gene and bio gene along with it, and this gall gene and bio gene is transferred to another bacteria, and this way they get the properties of, this is known as specialized or restricted gene transfer. That means only one gene or particular gene, the example is the gall gene, is transferred from one bacterium to another bacterium. This is known as restricted transduction or specialized transduction. Role of transduction. Episomes and plasmids also transduced. Second, penicillin resistance in Staphylococci. And third, genetic mapping of bacteria. Fourth, methods of genetic engineering. So now come to the lysogenic conversion of gene transfers. We have discussed about the two types of gene transfer. One is the transformation, another is the transduction, third one is the lysogenic conversion, and the fourth one is the conjugation. I will tell the conjugation in the coming slides. Now I am dealing with the lysogenic conversion. What is meant by lysogenic conversions? So phase, here phase actually rose, bacteriophage is integrated with the bacterial chromosome. Once this phase is integrated with the DNA of the bacteria, it gives the new characters. So the confirms the genetic information the new way. So this type of attachment of the bacteriophage with this bacterial chromosome is known as lysogenic or phase conversions. What happens if the phase is attached to the chromosome of the bacteria? It results in the development of new genetic element. Once this new genetic element is developed, it gives rise to certain properties to that bacteria. The best example is one is the Corynebacterium diphtheria. In this diphtheria, the chromosome is integrated with the bacteriophage. Once this bacteriophage is integrated with this chromosome of the Corynebacterium diphtheria organisms, then it gets toxigenicity. So the organisms can able to produce the toxin. So once you remove the beta phase from the chromosome of this Corynebacterium diphtheria, they lose their toxicity. So this is the one of the best example for the lysogenic conversion of the phase with the bacterial chromosome. And another example is the toxin produced in some bacteria is also due to the phase conversion. In this lysogenic conversion, what happens? The phase is the bacterial phase is integrated with the bacterial chromosome, ultimately resulting in the development of new property. Example is the toxinic strains of Corynebacterium diphtheria, which is integrated with the B phase. Once the B phase is removed from this Corynebacterium diphtheria, they lose their toxicity and they become non-pathogenic or non-toxinic strains. So this is about the lysogenic phase. Now come to the importance of lysogenic phase conversion. So its importance is some are susceptible to bacteriophage. So you can divide the bacteria by phase typing. Another importance is antigenic characters. You can determine the antigenic characters by bacteriophage conversions. Example is the beta phase conversion of the diphtheria bacilli, which I have already told, the production of toxin, which is beta phase is integrated with the diphtheria bacilli. Now come to the fourth type of gene transfer, is known as conjugation. So transfer of genetic element will takes place by physical contact of the bacterium. So this was first identified by scientists, that is Lederberg and Katoon, in the organisms, that is Escherichia coli K12 in the year 1946. So this conjugation, the plasmids responsible for this conjugation, and these plasmids are known as transfer factors or sex factors. So I have got three types of plasmids for conjugation. These includes the first one is the plasmid transfer, second one is the chromosomal gene transfer, third one is the plasmid and chromosomal gene transfer. So in this picture you can able to know the transfer of plasmid. So it is a plasmid is a extragenital chromosomal element. In the pictures you will see the F plus cell and F minus cell. In the F plus cells, the extra chromosomal DNA part of that is plasmid is present, and this plasmid is transferred to F minus cell by formation of conjugate 2. So this plasmid which is present in the F plus cells that gives the property of pili. Once this plasmid is transferred to F minus cell, what happens? The F plus cell is transferred to F plus cell. So again it gives the pili. So in the diagram in the top you will see F plus and F minus. In the lower diagram you will see F plus and F plus. F plus means the plasmid is transferred from the F plus to F minus cell. So this plasmid is known as fertility factor or sex factor. The plasmid which is transferred from one bacteria to another bacteria by means of conjugate 2. A result the change of properties. Here the property change is the pili. F plus cell contains the pili, and whereas F minus bacteria do not contain the pili. After the transfer of the plasmid from F plus cell to F minus cell, the F minus cell is in turn changes to F plus cell, and it also capable of producing the pili. So this is the new character developed in the F minus cell, and these pili are responsible for the attachment and various pathological changes that takes place for their survival. So this plasmid is known as fertility factor or sex factor. The plasmid here called as the fertility factor or sex factor, as it is responsible for the transfer of the genetic material, the fertility factor or the sex factor. So this is also the conjugation. Here the plasmid known as F factor. So you can see the donor cells and the recipient cells. Donor cell contains the plasmid F factor, whereas recipient cell do not contain the plasmid F factor. So when these two cells or bacteria come in close contact, a conjugation tube is formed. So via this conjugation tube, that is plasmid, nothing but the F factor, is transferred to F minus cell and changing the F minus cell into F plus cell. So this is where the F factor is transferred from one cell to another cell. And now come to the right side of the diagram, you will see the donor and recipient. The donor cell contains the chromosome and also F factor in the plasmid, and this whereas the recipient cell do not contain the plasmid or the F factor. When these both cells, that is donor cell and recipient cell, come in contact, the formation of conjugate tube takes place. Via this conjugate tube, the F factor is transferred from donor cell to recipient cell, and finally the recipient cell receives the characters of donor cell. So this is the process of conjugation, and this the plasmid here known as the F factor. So how this genetic conjugation, the process takes place. This is the antibiotic resistant stem and this is the sensitive stem. This is the flagellar stem made into flagellar stems. So continuation of the conjugation, F factor. F factor contains the genetic information necessary for the synthesis of sex pillars. That means the bacteria which having the pili and those bacteria who do not having the pili. So this F factor, nothing but the plasmid, is transferred from F plus cell to F minus cells, thereby rendering the F minus cells to become a phylus, sex phylus forming bacteria. So now next is the episome with integrated two bacterial chromosome. Now come to the high frequency cells. What is high frequency cell? Transfer of chromosomal genes to recipient cells with high frequency. So when it is bacterial chromosome is integrated with this episome, it turns into high frequency cell. So then it can able to transfer the genes in a high frequency. Now other term is the F prime factor. So the F factor is incorporated into chromosomal gene. Then it is called as F factor. So in the previous slides we have seen simply transfer of plasmid. Here a part of gene of the chromosome is also transferred from one cell to another cell. So this is the factor responsible for the transfer factor. This takes place in the form of high frequency recombination. The bacterial chromosome gene is transferred with this transfer factor to another cells. So this factor is incorporated into the bacterial chromosome, then it is called turned as episome. So this episome present in the chromosomal DNA will take some of the genes of the chromosome from this one cell to another cells. So when this F factor is incorporated into the chromosome genes, then this type of cell is known as high frequency cell. So I will clearly tell about in the coming slide. So in these pictures you can able to see the F factor, top one, middle one, chromosome of Escherichia coli, the lower one, the F factor plus chromosome of the Escherichia coli, both. So in the top is the F factor, is nothing but a plasmid, and this plasmid or F factor is integrated with the bacterial chromosome. So once it is integrated with the bacterial chromosome, this bacteria will turn into high frequency cell. That means it can able to transfer the genetic materials in a high frequency from one cell to another cell. So this is how this high frequency cell will develop. So how it develops? It develops by integration of the F factor to the bacterial chromosome. So once this F factor is integrated with the bacterial chromosome, it turns into high frequency cell, which are having the property for the transfer of genetic elements in a high frequency. In this picture you can able to see the high frequency cell, which I already told what is meant by high frequency cell. Once you come in contact with this non-high frequency cells, what happens? The genetic material is transferred from high frequency cells to the F minus cell by means of conjugation tool. Once this high frequency cell separated from F minus cell, and this again you will see the no change in the property. So differences: first, in high frequency transfer the recipient cell remain F minus. The second, inside the recipient cell the donor DNA integrated with recipient chromosome and cannot replicate. The third one is the reversal. So in the previous slides I told how the plasmid is transferred and also how this chromosome is also transferred. Now in these slides I am going to tell about both plasmid and chromosome genes are transferred. The mechanism involved is the conjugation. So disintegrated F plasmid carrying a small portion of bacterial chromosome along with its high frequency cell termed as F primary cell. What is F primary cell? F primary cell is nothing but the disintegrated F plasmid carrying small portion of bacterial chromosome along with its high frequency cell is termed as F primary cell. The transfer of host genes through this F factor is known as sex reduction. The F factor is nothing but a plasmid. The plasmid having this a portion of the bacterial gene, then it is called as F primary cell. The process of transmission of both plasmid and chromosome from one bacteria to another bacteria takes place by means of conjugation, and this process is known as sex reduction. So formation of F primary cell, how it takes place. On the left side you will see the high frequency cell. What is high frequency cell? High frequency cell is nothing but the chromosome which is incorporated with the F plasmid. So that is known as high frequency cell. Simply the plasmid is incorporated into the bacterial chromosome, which turns the bacteria into transfer of genetic material in a high frequency, that is known as high frequency cell. Now come to the right side, F primary cell. So what is F primary cell? What is the difference between the high frequency cell and the F primary cell? In the high frequency cell, if you see, the plasmid is integrated with the chromosome. In the F primary cell, you will see the plasmid comes out from the chromosome along with the some of the chromosome of the bacteria. So this type of cell is known as F primary cell. So this F primary cell contains the not only F plasmid and also some of the chromosomal part of the DNA. And whereas high frequency cell contains the chromosome which is integrated with the plasmid. So simply you can say that high frequency cell is nothing but the incorporated plasmid, whereas F primary cell is nothing but the plasmid having some of the genes of the bacterial chromosome. So medically important transfer factors. Number one is the carcinogenic factor, Gall factor, or number two, resistant transfer factor, or RTF. These are the two medically important transfer factors. The first important, medically important transfer factor is the carcinogenic factor or Gall factor. So the plasmid determines the calcium production in Gall factor, and this plasmid resembles to the F factor, and this is produced by this coliform bacteria. So the Gall factor is produced by the coliform bacteria. What is the importance of this Gall factor? So this Gall factor is helpful for intraspecies classification of bacteria. So various bacteriocins, what is calcin or bacteriocin? Nothing but the antibacterial substance which inhibit the other species of organisms for their survival. The medically important first factor is the carcinogenic factor or Gall factor, which is a plasmid which determines this calcium production. So it resembles to the F factor produced by the coliform bacteria, and its usefulness is to intraspecies classification of the bacteria. The next medically important transfer factor is the resistance factor or plasmid. So how the drug resistance from one bacteria to other bacteria will take place. So the spread of multiple drug resistance among bacteria by conjugation. So this was first observed between the Escherichia coli and strains of the Shigella. So this resistance is in the form of transferable, episomal or infectious drug resistance. So in this R plasmid contains two components. One is the resistant transfer factor, two is the resistant determinant factor. So resistant transfer factor responsible for the conjugational transfer, and resistance determinant factor codes for the drug resistance. This picture you will see the R plasmid having the two components. One is the resistant transfer factor, another is the small r, that is resistant determinant factor. So transfer resistant factor is responsible for conjugational transfer, whereas R determinant are responsible for the various drug determinants, resistance to various drugs, that will be determined by small r. So in this picture you will see the left side donor cell, which is having the plasmid for the various drug resistances. On the left side you will see the recipient cell, so which do not have the any resistant plasmid. So this drug resistant plasmid is transferred from donor cell to recipient cell. So donor cell is the having the properties of drug resistance, whereas the recipient cell do not have the properties of drug resistance. So once these two cells in coming together, with the help of the conjugation, the drug resistance from donor cell to recipient cell will take place with this plasmid, that is R plasmid, so resulting in the development of drug resistance in the recipient cell. So this is the way how the drug resistance from one bacterium to other bacterium will takes place. So that means resistant bacteria will transmit the drug resistance to non-resistant bacteria by this R factor by means of conjugative process. The factor influencing R factor. So this may be includes the in vivo and in vitro factors, anaerobic conditions, bile salts, pH, and commensal flora. What are the features of this R factor? So R factor transfer to antimicrobial and heavy metal sensitive bacteria, and R factor has got wide host range, and this R factor transmission from animals to man. So the bacteria which develops resistant in animal will come into the humans. So this is the importance of R factor, drug resistance factor. So genetic mechanisms of drug resistance in bacteria. It takes place in two ways. First one is the intrinsic resistance. So natural insusceptibility. Second one is the acquired resistance. In acquired resistance, first one is the mutation, second one is the genetic transfer. Drug resistance by mutation. It has got two types. One is the stepwise mutation, two is the one-step mutation. In stepwise mutation, high level of resistance by series of small step mutations takes place. Example is the penicillin resistant. Second one is the one-step mutation. In this, unable to bind the drug. So uncommon clinically. Example is the streptomycin in tuberculosis. What are the biochemical mechanisms involved in mutational drug resistance? The first one is decreased drug permeability, thereby getting the drug resistance. Second one is the altered metabolic pathways. In that way, the drug will get resistant. And the production of enzymes by the bacteria. In that way, the drug resistance occurs. And lastly, modifying the properties of drug receptor sites. So these are the biochemical mechanisms involved in mutations or development of drug resistance. One is the decreased permeability, two is the altered the metabolic pathways, three is the enzyme production, fourth one is the alter the binding site. So after the mutational drug resistance, next one is the drug resistance by genetic exchange or transferable drug resistance. So it is brought about by transformation. So it is not common. The next drug resistance is by transduction. So this is occurs with the penicillin resistance in case of staphylococci. The next one is the conjugation. So in this R factor mediated multi-drug resistance is the most common method of drug resistance. So the drug resistance is mostly seen with conjugation of genetic transfer and also with the transduction related to penicillin, and it is not common in transformations. So all this various mechanism of gene transfer I have earlier, and their application is uh, getting the drug resistance. Of all the drug resistance, conjugation drug resistance is the most common. How to eliminate this genetic exchange drug resistance or transferable drug resistance? This can be eliminated by acridindies and ethionamidies and minimum usage of the antibiotics. I told there are two types of drug resistance. One is by mutational drug resistance, another is by transferable drug resistance. So what are the difference between the mutational drug resistance and the transferable drug resistance? So first, the resistance occur in case of mutational drug resistance is for only one drug at a time, whereas in case of transferable drug resistance, multi-drug resistance at a time takes place. In case of mutational drug resistance, low degree of resistance. In case of transferable drug resistance, high degree resistance takes place. Mutational drug resistance is overcome by high dose, whereas transferable drug resistance cannot be overcome by high dose. Next, the difference is the prevented by multi-drugs. So in case of mutational drug resistance, if you give more than two drugs, the drug resistance will be prevented. So in case of transferable drug resistance, combination of drugs are not effective. So mutational drug resistance cannot be transferable, whereas transferable drug resistance can be transferable from one bacteria to another bacteria. Mutational drug resistance is metabolically defective, whereas transferable drug resistance is not defective. The virulence of this mutational drug resistance is low, whereas transferable drug resistance virulence not decreased. These are the differences between the mutational drug resistance and the transferable drug resistance. Transposable genetic elements. What are these transposable genetic elements? These are nothing but the transposomes, or otherwise known as jumping genes. So genetically discrete segments of DNA move between the chromosomal DNA and the extrachromosomal DNA molecule. So these transposomes may be simple to complex. The simple transposome contains the 4 kilobases, complex contains the 25 kilobases. So gene for drug resistance and toxin production is present in transposome. So transposition means cut and paste manner. So this is about the transposomes. Transposomes are nothing but the jumping genes which can move from T1 DNA to extrachromosomal DNA with having the some genes with them which carries the drug resistance or toxin production. Simplest transposomes. This contains 750 base pairs. They are also known as insertion sequences. Composite transposomes contains the segment of DNA with one or more genes in the center, and the two ends carries the inverted repeat sequence of nucleotides complementary to each other but in reverse order. So see this DNA, the DNA having the transposome, and this transposome again contain the genes for enzyme. The second step, you will see the transposome enzyme In the third step, the transposome is cut out and inserted at new location. So this is the way of how these transposomes move from one place to another place, and that's why they are also called as jumping genes. In this slide, you are able to see the transposome. Transposome comprises of insertion sequences IS on either side. In middle, you have got the transposome gene, the gene of different drug resistances, the insertional sequences. IS is ABC one side, and the another side insertional sequence are CBA, and the gene is XYZ, which is drug resistant genes, are present in the transposomes. So the presence of this inverted sequences will make it to form as a loop, and thereby it can move from one chromosome to another chromosome, and when it moves from one chromosome to another chromosomes, it takes out the drug resistant genes and carry the drug resistance to other genes. So structure of the transposome, it is having the single stranded loop with gene and double stranded stem between the terminal repeat sequences. So what is the significance of transposomes? So first, they amplifying the gene transfers. Second, spread from one organism or species to other organisms, and they play a role in drug resistance. They play a role in gene manipulations. So these are some of the importance or significance of transposomes. They play a role in the gene transfers, and they play a role in the drug resistance. They play a role in the gene manipulations. They spread from one organism to another organisms, being a transposable or moves from one chromosome to another chromosomes. Molecular genetics. What is meant by molecular genetics? It is nothing but analysis and manipulation of DNA using biochemical and microbiological techniques. So this may be in the form of genetic engineering, this may be in the form of DNA probes, this may be in the form of blotting techniques, this may be in the form of polymerase chain reaction. Genetic engineering, recombinant DNA technology. In this, we are inserting foreign gene into the bacterium and obtaining the chemically useful products. That means, so you are taking the gene, for example, insulin producing gene, and is inserted into the bacterium, and finally get the large quantities of insulin. So what is the procedure? So you have to isolate the desired gene. So for example, insulin producing gene you have to isolate. Then this gene is introduced into microorganisms. After introducing into the microorganisms, the gene can able to produce large amount of protein or the insulin in a pure form. So this is the procedure occurs. Basic tools of genetic engineering. First one is the cloning vectors. To deliver the DNA sequences into the receptive bacteria. What are these vectors? These may be plasmids, bacteriophage, or viruses. The next one is the restriction endonucleases. So they recognize and cleave the double-stranded DNA at specific sequences. Example for this restriction endonuclease or the ECHO, RI, HIND, etc. The third, DNA ligase, the enzyme that links the fragment to the cloning vector. So these are the basic tools for genetic engineering. So applications of genetic engineering. Production of commercially preparations. So example is the somatostatin and interferons. Next one is the safer vaccines of pathogens. So rabies vaccine, hepatitis B vaccine. Next one is the gene therapy. The next one is the other laboratory diagnostic purposes. So these are the some of the applications of genetic engineering. Restriction endonucleases or restriction enzymes. So these enzymes cleave double-stranded DNA at specific oligonucleotide sequences. Examples for this restriction endonucleases are EcoRI1, another is the TACI. So by this restricted endonucleases, DNA is cleaved and varying length of DNA strands are formed. So these DNA strands are separated by gel electrophoresis, and these DNA strands are identified by lithium bromide. So in this picture you are using the probe for identification of unknown bacterium. So the sequence of the probe should be of homologous to that of unknown organism. Then only it get hybridized, thereby you can identify the organisms. Suppose you have prepared the probe for Escherichia coli, the sequence are in such a way in the test organisms both should be homologous, then only it get hybridized. So finally it get be identified as Escherichia coli. Suppose you have taken the probe of uh, nucleic acid of Escherichia coli and you are going for detecting the unknown organism, whether it is Escherichia coli or other, there won't be any homologous of the nucleic acid, then it won't get any hybridization. So this organism is not identified. So this is the way how this DNA probe is used for identification of certain organisms. The schematic illustration of the principle of the DNA probe technique for the identification of bacteria. So a piece of or a strand of DNA is isolated from a known species of bacteria. If the nucleic acid is unique of this strand of DNA is unique to the species, this strand can be used as a DNA probe. So this DNA strand is labeled with radioactive element or other substances that can be readily detected. So next, the probe is mixed with the DNA strand that has been isolated from the unknown bacterium under special conditions. So if the DNA probe and the strand combines to form a duplex double-stranded DNA, the unknown bacterium is of the same species as that from which the probe was isolated. So simply you can say the probe contains the unique sequences which can combine with the unidentified bacteria, then only it get hybridized. Applications of nucleic acid probes. First one is to recognize specific antibiotic resistant genes. Example is the MECA gene. Second one is the for culture confirmation. Example Mycobacterium tuberculosis. Third one is direct detection in clinical samples. That is Chlamydia trachomatis. So probes are used in these purposes for detecting the resistant gene McA and to isolate confirm the isolate, that is Mycobacterium tuberculosis, and also can directly identify the Chlamydia trachomatis by using the probes in the clinical sample. Now come to the blotting techniques. There are three blotting techniques. One is the southern blotting, second one is the northern blotting, third one is the western blotting. So they are highly sensitive techniques employed for identification of fragments of DNA, RNA or proteins by hybridization. So this is the southern blot technique. In this southern blot technique, I have taken the DNA and DNA is cleaved into different fragments, and these fragments are denatured and attached to the nitrocellular paper, and this denatured DNA is labeled with radioactive, and this labeled DNA is allowed to identify the homologous DNA. In that way, you can able to identify the various infectious agents by the southern blot technique. In southern blot technique, simply you are separating the DNA, and this various fragments of the DNA or comes out from these fragments. You will denature the DNA. After denature, single strand comes, and this single strand DNA is labeled, and this single stranded DNA is treated with the homologous DNA for identification of the bacterial infections or bacterial unknown bacteria. This is the southern blot technique where DNA is separated into various bands, and these bands are allowed to treat with the nitrocellulose membrane, and these are blotted into this membrane. These blotted DNA bands are exposed to probe, radio labeled probe for identification of particular band, for identification of particular organisms or the DNA fragment. So this is the southern blot technique. So after southern blot, we are going for the northern blot technique. In northern blot technique, RNA is separated into various bands, and these bands are absorbed into nylon membrane, and this absorbed nylon membrane is exposed to probe, and this probe will able to identify the homologous band for identification of particular pathogen or organism. So what is the difference between the southern blot and the northern blot? In southern blot, we are taking the DNA, whereas in case of northern blot, we are taking the RNA. The entire procedure for the both the blottings is same. Next blotting technique is the western blot technique. Is the most popular used technique for identification of various infectious agents. Here the technique is same as that of DNA and RNA blotting. Instead of DNA and RNA in Western blot, we are identifying the different proteins. So first these proteins mixture is separated and is blotted into nitrocellulose membrane, and these separated proteins are identified by using the radio labeled antibodies or enzymes as a probes. Now come to the polymerase chain reaction PCR. In this gene amplification method, the rapid automated method, amplification of DNA sequence, the abundant availability of DNA from a source. What are the steps in PCR? About 3 steps. First step, denaturation of the sample DNA into single-stranded DNA by exposure to heat. Next step is annealing of specific oligonucleotide primer to specific DNA segment. And third step is extension of primers by DNA polymerase to form a new double-strand DNA. This is the polymerase chain reaction. There are 3 steps. First step, second step, third step. In the first step, denaturation. What is denaturation? So double-stranded DNA is separated into single-stranded DNA by exposing at 94 degrees centigrade for 1 minute. This takes in the first step. In the second step, annealing. What is annealing? So attachment of the primer, that is oligonucleotide sequence, are attached to the single-stranded DNA at temperature 45 degrees centigrade or 54 degrees centigrade. So in this second step, the single-stranded DNA is annealed with the primers. Come to the third step. In the third step, we are extending the primer with the help of polymerase enzyme. So this extension takes place at 72 degrees centigrade. So ultimately gives the production of double-stranded DNA. So in this way, you can able to produce large quantities of DNA from a single DNA. The first step, you got the 2 molecules of DNA. In the second step, you will get the 4 DNAs. In the third step, you will get the 8 DNAs. In the same way, you will get when the cycles are repeated, you will get the large number of DNAs. After several cycles of polymerase chain reactions, for about 25 to 50 cycles, you will get the thousands of copies of DNA. So what is the use of PCR? The uses for diagnosis of infectious genetic neoplastic diseases, and this PCR used for forensic investigations, and this PCR used for archaeological investigations. So other PCRs includes the transcription mediated amplification, multiplex PCR, reverse transcriptase PCR, real-time PCR. The molecular epidemiology, identification and matching of microbes for epidemiological purpose, example, plasmid profile analysis and PCR, etc. Lastly, gene therapy is also nowadays employed. Say thank you.